Hello everyone, this is Christy, and today I would like to show you a little project that we did recently for a client of mine when we redesigned his website, redesigned his YouTube channel identity, and we created some thumbnail images, some preview images for the blogs, featured images, and thumbnails for the YouTube channel for all of his videos. And I'm going to walk you through the project, the whole workflow of how we created, how we thought about the colors, how we chose the shape and the design of these thumbnails. So stay with me, please subscribe to my channel, and let's go. So this is my friend's website that we've redesigned, and my friend Chris Menard, he creates Microsoft Office training videos and blog posts. So he's a certified application specialist instructor for Microsoft, and he's creating all these many videos on various topics from Word, Excel, PowerPoint, everything to do with Office 365. And as you can see down here, these are the preview images we've designed for his blog for Excel and Word, and we have some for PowerPoint and some other unrelated ones. But as you can see here, they all have a different consistent look, but they have a different kind of color theme, and I'm going to explain how we decided to use that. And these actually can be used also for YouTube videos. So these are blog posts. If I click on this blog post here, you can see that it's got this preview image at the start, and then the tutorial or whatever is in that article about, screenshots and everything else. So how did we think about these colors and the shape and the look of these thumbnails? This is what I'm going to explain to you right now. So one of the things that we wanted to keep was the color consistency with the Microsoft Office suite applications. So as you know, Microsoft Excel uses this green, and then Word has a blue, and PowerPoint has kind of a red, orange kind of color. So we wanted to keep that in our thumbnails, in our featured images, to suggest what the video or the article might be about. So I'm just going to move into Xara for now, and this is a blank document here, and I'm just going to show you. We've done some color research, and we got the colors from the Microsoft branding for Office, and I extracted these colors from their logos. So as you can see here, Office 365 has a kind of a orange color, which is very similar to the one in PowerPoint. And then Word has this blue, and Excel the green, and then Outlook has this lighter blue. So we have incorporated these colors into our designs. Now, I'm just going to recreate the thumbnails for you here from scratch. I'm going to show you how I did them and how I created them in terms of indicating also the difficulty, because many of the videos are basic level. So if you are a beginner in Office or Excel, you are a basic level. So there are some videos that show you some simpler things, and then there are some videos that show you sort of kind of the intermediate level, and then advanced stuff that usually takes longer and maybe it's more complicated concepts. So we wanted to also include this in our thumbnails to suggest what each post might be about and what's the difficulty level. So if I go on the blog here, for example, you will see that Excel Intermediate looks like this, and then Excel Advanced is like this. So you see the bar here, the color is darker and the basic stuff is lighter. So we use that as an indicator of the difficulty. So I'm going to show you also how I've done it. So let's move into Xara. And I have my color scheme here. I'm just going to copy this into my new document here, just so that I have it handy. Okay, I created a new document. And just for reference, I can show you, I can import the icons for the Office applications. And we're going to use these four here. I'm importing them into Xara. So you've got Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Outlook. I'm not going to immediately use these now for anything, just to show you the actual colors we're going to be using. And the first thing to think about is, what is going to be the size of my thumbnail? When you do YouTube videos, generally it's considered, you know, good practice to have a good standard video size. So most people on YouTube kind of shoot video in HD or even 4K, but HD has a 16:9 aspect ratio, and it's important to start your design with this in mind. If you're going to upload HD videos, then make sure that your thumbnail has the same aspect ratio and the same size, so that when you upload it, it fits perfectly on top of your video according to the size. So first of all, we're just going to create a rectangle for the size of our video. So I'm just going to freehand a rectangle here, and in Xara you just use the rectangle tool and just draw a rectangle here. By default it's black, it doesn't matter. So I want to make this rectangle be exactly HD. Now the HD screen size in pixels, it's 1920 by 1080 pixels. Okay, so if you look in Xara at the top here, it's this is by no means any no closer, it's 1848 by whatever. So I can actually put in here 1920, press enter, and that's created a 1920 pixel rectangle, but it also changed the height to 1011, so that's not good. I'm just going to take off the lock here that locks the aspect ratio, and then I can put in 1080 on my height there. So this is now perfectly HD rectangle. Now I don't actually need to design at this size, so because that's going to fill most of my page here. So I'm going to make it smaller after I lock my aspect ratio again. So now if I drag the corner, I can make it smaller. It still maintains the HD aspect ratio, but it doesn't take so much space. And I can export it. When I'm finished with it, I can export this at HD size, no problem. It doesn't have to be HD on my actual document here. Okay, and as far as pixel size. So let's start by designing the general look of the thumbnail. So first of all, we wanted to include an area where we indicate the difficulty. So we decided that we would use it at the bottom. I'm going to make this rectangle kind of gray like that. So at the bottom of all my previews, all my thumbnails, is the indication of the difficulty. So we have 3 indicators. I'm going to just type them in. I'm just going to select the text tool, and I'm going to select maybe this Gothic font, and I'm going to just type here basic. Okay, so I'm typing basic, and then intermediate, and finally advanced. These are the 3 levels we want to work with. So I'm gonna just make them a bit larger now, all of them, and let's start with intermediate. That's the longest word, so if that one fits okay, then we should be good for the other ones. I'm just going to place this one down here, and I want to use the bar, a colored bar, where this text is going to sit on, and this colored bar will be showing the difficulty as well by the intensity of the color. So I'm going to just make a duplication of this rectangle, so I can see Control-Alt-D to duplicate it. And to make things faster, I'm going to work with the Word version of the thumbnail. So I'm just going to change the color of this to be the color of Word. So I can just go and click on the color picker while my rectangle is selected. I can click on the color picker and choose the color from the Word logo, or I can go here into my color theme palette that I've created. So this is the blue from Word. Okay, I'm just going to put this on top of this. If I want to align it perfectly, select this one and select my background and right click and sorry, not right click, Control Shift L to align them. Okay, or go to the Arrange Alignment menu and select centrally and apply. So now they're both aligned perfectly on top of each other. Now, okay, I don't actually want to keep the blue bar, so the blue bar is going to go all the way down here. Okay, and I can see my text here in the background. Move Control F to move it to the front and put it on top of my bar, and I wanted to make it white. There you go. So that's my colored bar with the difficulty. Now, there's another element that I used in my original designs, is to use some sort of tabs, like to indicate the difficulty even better. So I created 3 different tabs, virtual tabs on this. One of them is the beginner, one of them is the intermediate, and one of them is the advanced one. So I'm just aligning these here. I don't actually have to do it manually. Control Shift L, and I'm gonna align them centrally, vertically, like that. So there you are. Okay, so these will not actually be the same color at the end, but just to suggest. So if I'm intermediate, then this one will be lighter, this one will be darker, and this one will be sort of in between them. Okay, so the way that I did it was I have used the color from Word, for example, the darker blue, the normal blue, to signify the advanced, and then the intermediate was slightly lighter, and then basic was even lighter. So the way to achieve that was really just to go to the select the middle one, for example, and you can go to transparency and make that as maybe at 20% transparent, and then the basic version will be at 40%. So I don't know if this is very obvious. Maybe we'll do 60 on that one, and then 40 on this one, and then darker, just leave it at 100. So like that, you know. You can toggle with these in terms of changing the hue, the color, so that it gives you a good visual distinction between them. And if I'm at the intermediate, then of course the color of this bar will have to be the middle one, wouldn't it? So like that. Okay, so that was one of the indicators, and on my ones I actually chose to make these actually slightly shorter, like this, and then this would be unified with my bottom bar, so that they show that actually they are part of the same object. Okay, so, and I also had an arrow, so I can go to the shape tool, click on the star, and drag a star here and choose 3 corners like this, and then kind of turn this on its head like that, and make it smaller a bit like this, and make it white, make it not so tall. So there you are. You know, we've used this kind of like an indicator of the difficulty. Now, okay, so this is the Word version of intermediate, and I'm just going to keep it like this for now. We will obviously make duplicates of this for different colors, different applications, and different difficulties. So we will just remove these for now from here, and I'm going to create the rest of this graphic. Now the rest of the graphic includes kind of a divided area at the top. Half of it will be the area where we put the text, and half of it will be the suggestive sort of background graphic that suggests what the video is about, maybe showing a fragment of the screenshot from one of the images used in the tutorial, or, you know, it doesn't really matter. It's just a visual element to fill the whole space. So the thing we did was to separate the 2 areas. I created a duplicate of this background here. Let's make it some orange just for us to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up and to the left to align it better, and then I'm going to slide this right around the half space here, and then if I want to kind of make it slanted, I just click on it again and use the skew tool to slant it like this. Okay, and I think that's a good angle, and I'm gonna just make it larger like that, and now I want to combine it so that it stays within the same space. So I'm gonna duplicate my background element, and I'm going to select that one plus my orange bit and go combine shape and intersect. And there you are. I have this image, that this space that divides the left from the right area. And of course I want to move this behind my tab. So Control Shift B moved it moves it to the back one layer at a time. So, oh, that's too much. Come back. Okay, like this. Now, you can potentially see a problem here because I used transparency on the level of indicators here, the indicator levels, and because of that, it combines with this orange in the background and it creates this other color here. Now, I don't want that to happen, so I can either move this up like this, okay, and leave this area kind of blank, or I can use some other elements to help me, maybe use some sort of background for that. So let me show you. I can create a rectangle in around this area here that will isolate my my tabs, so like this, okay, and I make this white and move it to the back like this. Okay, in this case white is may not be the best choice because my background is gray, so I can click on the gray thing there and select the gray color from the background. So I'm actually protecting that, and if I pull this down again, you can see here that now it's actually not impacting my color anymore. So I can move this up a bit there like that, okay, or I can pull this down here to the top. So as you can see like this, now it kind of keeps those tabs protected. I can put them all the way down here too, like this. Maybe give it a bit more space. Just pull it up a bit like that. So, you know, you can play with this and just decide for yourself how you want to make it. Don't make it too complicated, because then you know when you actually have to create different versions of this, you will be a bit you know, too complex, and you're gonna have to decide which way to keep it. And also at different sizes, when people see your video in a recommended list or as a smaller thumbnail, this detail here is not really visible so much. So it doesn't really matter what you do here, as long as you're happy with you know, getting a first glance look at what the video might be about. So I just, you know, don't complicate it too much like that, you know. So just keep this area clean and simple. Okay, so now that I've designed this corner, I want to take care of this area here, because obviously this is not going to be blue. It's not going to be orange. So I'm going to use the same color from my my theme here. I can just grab it from Word because this is about Word. But you can see now that it's not the same color like the intermediate one. So the intermediate tab has the transparency set at 30%. So I can do the same for this one. Select that and go to transparency, 30%. So now it becomes the same color, and I think in the end I might actually need to have the separation here like this. If I pull it up a bit, just to have the separation between the tabs and the top section there. Okay, so now how do I do the text on top? Okay, so let's see. We want to put some text here that will be quite large, and when visitors see this thumbnail, they can read it in a split second, read what's on it, and immediately know what the video is about, okay, or the blog post. So I'm just going to type here a mock text, how to do something important in Word. Okay, this is as a recommendation. Don't put too much text on these thumbnails. You don't want to write a whole story on these thumbnails, because people are not going to have time to read those. And you know, if they're small, like I said, they're going to be squinting, and they will just quickly go over it. So I think 4 lines of text is plenty. So I've written 4 lines of text here, and I'm going to zoom, make this large, and I will align it to the other bit of text here. So intermediate, as you can see, I'm aligning this with my intermediate text and moving it up with the arrow keys. You can move it. And also, it's a good design practice. Make sure everything is kind of nicely arranged. So your space around this text should be more or less constant, So if I have kind of on the left, I have here like, double widths of a letter, then do the same at the top. So kind of try and eye it. Don't really go for very, very precise, but just make it look nice, nicely placed and intentional, not just like this, touching the edge, that's not really nice. So just move it in and make sure it uses kind of the same distance all around it. If you find that you have difficulty kind of placing this here, you can maybe change the line height, the distance between the lines. So you can select the text tool, select your text, and then in Xara, you can change here line spacing. You can just click on this and move it down a bit or up. So you can see that reduces the line between the space between the lines. So if you like it like that, don't go too crammed though. Don't go too crammed, and just decide on a thing. Just make sure that your space that you allocate here will work fine for maybe longer pieces of text. Maybe you have a longer title. Now you should do your videos, of course, use keywords that are relevant to your videos, but if you have, in the future, maybe you will have a longer title, make sure that this is going to be suitable for that. And you don't have to suddenly say, oh, I need 5-6 lines, because that's going to, be inconsistent. And someone looking at more of your videos side by side, they will notice that, some of them are larger, some are smaller, some are weird kind of shape and amount. So I try to say, 4 lines should be enough. And in a video thumbnail, you can shorten your title. You don't have to say exactly the same like in your title. Sometimes you may change your title later for SEO purposes or optimizing your for discoverability in YouTube. So it's not really set in stone what title you have. But okay, if it's a different one completely, then of course you have to change your thumbnail. But apart from that, if you have a longer title, you can put on your thumbnail a shorter version of that. Okay, so you probably know this, but anyway, so I've decided that okay, 4 lines of text should be plenty for my my titles, and make sure it's nicely framed. And now the final bit of design was to use the background suggested image here that we use for grabbing a piece of the video, or maybe a screenshot if it's a tutorial and it's a representative screenshot. You can extract that from your video or prepare it in advance, or grab it from your screen. If you're showing a tutorial about doing something in Word or Excel or whatever other application, you can grab a representative screenshot of what you're teaching in that video. So in my example here, I'm just going to import a screenshot that I grabbed in advance. This is actually an Excel screenshot here. It doesn't matter. I'm just using it as a mock-up. So I have imported this, use the file import to import it. Yeah. And actually this image now, this screenshot, is in my bitmap gallery in Xara. On the right side there, you have your bitmap gallery, and my screenshot is right here. So I don't need to have it on the screen. I'm just going to delete it there. It will stay in my gallery, and I want to fill this gray background. I want to fill that with my with a piece of the screenshot. So how do I do that? Well, I click on this gray background, and it has a gray plain color fill now. I need to change the fill to be bitmap. So I go to the fill tool, and in the top drop down there, it says flat fill. I can change that to be bitmap like this. And Xara by default puts a kind of a striped fake placeholder bitmap in there. And all I have to do is just click my screenshot from the bitmap gallery and drag it on top of my image there and release it on top of my graphic. As you can see now, it's replaced my color, my bitmap with my screenshot. Of course, you don't have to leave it like this. If you want to change the placement, or you want to focus on a different area of the screenshot that will be visible in the right side here, you can use these anchors to drag it around or scale it. Okay, so you may want to zoom out a bit, control and wheel, and scale it. And you know what, I kind of like the fact that I have that slant, so I can actually make it like this. You know, I can slant my graphic here to kind of go in the same line as the split. It's up to you how you do it. Just make sure that you focus on a representative piece of image that you want to use from your video or blog. In this particular example here, this screenshot is from a video about pivot tables. It's obviously not related to Word, but you can leave it here just for you, like a placeholder. So when you actually create thumbnails, you can use this as a template and create thumbnails for your specific videos and replace this with the actual screenshot. I'm going to show you how that's done. So now I have put this screenshot here. I'm just going to leave it here as an example. And one thing that I can see here in the design is that this area in the left might be a bit hard to see. So because it's quite busy, depending on what you see here behind from your screenshot, it might be hard to read. So one thing you can do is, and which we have done, is to put a shadow on this text to make it stand out a bit. So I can select the text and I can go to the shadow tool on the left there and use a drop down shadow like that. Okay, so this adds a shadow. You can adjust your shadow, move it up and down, left and right. You can change the opacity. Okay, you can make it darker or lighter or bigger, you know, more fluffy. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it at that for now. But still, I think it's too busy. So in that way, I can actually alternate the transparency on the background there. So I can just go to the transparency tool. I click on the split color background here. I go to the transparency tool and put the transparency lower. I can still see a bit from it now, but I can read my text more clearly. So I think that works well. Another thing you can do is, if you have varying amounts of text and you don't mind this split zone here to varying in size, you can actually say, you know what, I can actually pull this back a bit to reveal more of my screenshot in the background, because this is, you know, subject to length. Okay, if you go all the way up here, then that's maybe a bit too much, but you know, depending on the amount of text you need there, you can scale this left and right and, you know, kind of have a nice balance between the background and your text placeholder. Just don't forget to keep roughly the same distance all around your text. So coming here with this too close to your text may not be such a good idea. It doesn't really look nice. So if you zoom out a bit, you can tell that, oh, someone's been in a rush there, you know, they put this thing too close. So just try and zoom out and look at your thumbnail at a small size like this, because most people on YouTube, when they find your YouTube video suggested, they will probably see it at this size. So think about, do you see it clearly like that? Is it clear enough for you? Does it grab your attention enough like this if it's at this size? So, you know, just make sure the text is easy to read and distinguished from any background elements. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back in here. And finally, another thing we did was, if in your title you have some important keyword, an important phrase that you want to highlight, it's a good idea to also select the text tool, and those two words maybe that are very important, we made them yellow. Okay, so now you can see here how to do something important in Word. Okay, so these two words stand out. You can even use capitals. You may have seen these attention grabbing thumbnails on YouTube. They kind of look something like this, you know. So you've got two big words, maybe a different color, just grabbing your attention there, and a suggestive background there. Okay, so now that we've done this, how do I do all of the other versions of my screen previews? So let's just get rid of these texts for now. We're actually going to rewrite them. So all I have to do is just let me create the basic version now. So this is the intermediate version. I'm going to move it down a bit, and I'm going to duplicate it, Control Alt D, and move it up a bit. So I'm going to make the basic version. Now all I have to do here is zoom in and first of all change the text from intermediate here to basic. All right, and I will have to also move this arrow to the basic tab, and the basic tab, if I click on it and choose transparency, it has 60% transparency. So I have to change this bar, the bar below, if I click on this bar, to change it to 60% as well, like that. Now this could also be a problem here because now it's too light, it's too transparent, and you don't really see it well. So one thing you can do is put a white background behind it to cover the screenshot, or actually don't make it transparent. So you can change it back to 0 and actually change the color by grabbing the color of the tab itself. So then it's going to have the same color, but it's not transparent. So that's another way to do it. And we have a little bit of overlap here. I can pull this up. It's really not going to be visible at that size anyway. So this is another way to do it. So this is my basic screen. Now I may want to change the color of this element too behind the text. Let's see how that looks if I make it basic like that. So you can see there's a light version there. You may want to change the color of the text to be dark blue and take the shadow off, maybe, you know, if that looks better. You know, it's still the same size and it's still the same font, but maybe it's got a different kind of contrast. I'm not going to do that though. I think this is pretty visible as it is now. So this is the second version, basic. Okay, so let's do the advanced one. I'm just going to copy the intermediate again, duplicate it, Control Alt D, and zoom in again. And this time I'm going to move to the right, move the arrow to the advanced darkest background image there. I'm going to click on the bar and pick the color picker and go to the darker blue there, and finally change the text to advanced. I may have to move this text a bit because it kind of needs to be under that arrow there, maybe ending under the arrow like that, just to suggest what it is, you know. And the intermediate one is centered and the basic one just a bit to the left there. So just to make sure that the text referring to the difficulty is below the graphic, just to add a bit of a visual cue, more consistent. So here we go. This is the dark one, and maybe let's make the intermediate one the same color as the background of that one. So as you can see, look, if you look from afar, if you zoom out, if you look from afar, you can see that the colors go from very light to dark depending on the difficulty, while keeping the color scheme of the program in question. So that's Word, obviously. I'm just going to put the icon on top there. Let's do the Excel version. Okay, so the Excel version, all I have to do is just select all three of them, duplicate them, move them to the right, and now I'm going to basically just change the color to the green. So I go in, let's do the first one. As you can see here, the basic color has a transparency of 60, right? So I just have to take the color picker and pick the green from Excel. The same for the second one, pick the green from Excel, and the third one, pick the green from Excel. And because they have different transparency levels, they appear already graded like that. So the light, the medium, and the dark. So I can do the same. I'm just going to move my icon down here with me, so I can do the same for all of them, just to change all of them like that to the green. Okay, and this one as well. Okay, sorry. All right, and now I'm going to just zoom in and change the color of the bar. The advanced bar will have that color, and the advanced background element will have the same color as well. Go up, change the color of this bar to the intermediate color. Same for the background element. And finally, the light version will have the light green and the light background on that one. So, you know, in a few steps, we have created the Excel version of that. Okay, I'm just going to do the rest. Let me change the orientation of my page to landscape so that I can have room to stretch here. Duplicate all these three, and let's do the PowerPoint now. So I can actually select all of these, holding down the Shift key, select all of them, because they all have the same color but the different levels of transparency. So I'm just gonna color pick the red or orange from the PowerPoint, and they all changed. I think I may have changed the arrow here by mistake, not a problem. Okay, so all of them have changed. And finally now, just zoom in and go one by one and change the bar. This is the basic one. This is the intermediate. Pick the colors. And finally the advanced. Select both of them with the Shift key and select advanced. So there you go. You have it here. Now let's try the Outlook finally. Duplicate everything. Put Outlook there, and let's select the 3 tabs. Hold down the Shift key to make sure you select all of them, and now go to pick the colors with the color picker, blue. I keep clicking on this arrow for some reason. It's quite small. So here we are. All right, and now change the bars to the blue. Okay, so we've done the Outlook version. So as you can see, in a few steps, we have replicated the design to suggest all these different applications with their color scheme from the logos and with different levels of difficulty suggested on the videos. If you think that maybe the background of the text kind of merges too much into the whole overall background and it kind of makes this area loose, you can use something neutral here. Maybe you can use a light gray or a dark black or something, you know. You can use something darker like this to make it a more neutral color if you want. So that will make the difficulty bar stand out, because then you can see clearly now that the color here is suggested with the from the application you're talking about, whereas this text will always be on this gray kind of background, and the yellow and the white will stand out, and you know, there won't be any doubt as to what it is. Plus you won't get this kind of boring you know, monotonous green, blue. Some people might actually not realize this subtle difference in transparency and hue to indicate the level of difficulty or whatever. So, you know, another idea is to just make all these gray, you know, make them something neutral like that. So as you can see now, the difficulty pops out. All right, see, it's kind of different shades of gray here, but yeah, you see now the difficulty bar at the bottom of the thumbnail really stands out depending on these applications. So finally, the final step now is to just export these. So when you actually create a new one, you obviously will use a different screenshot, different title. So all you have to do is just save this file as a template, and then when you do a video or a tutorial on a, let's say, PowerPoint intermediate, all you have to do is just grab this section here, copy it, and go to a new document and paste it. You know, you're in a new document here, you paste it, you change the title. This is the new title of the video in PowerPoint. So practically speaking, I'm going to just remove that. So as you can see, when you do videos, when you do new posts, you're challenged with the problem of, oh, how do I fit this text? So you kind of you can put the new, you just play with the words, make sure that the words actually break naturally. So this is the new title. So it's not really natural there. So you may want to break it here, new title of the video in PowerPoint. For example, it kind of looks more like a block, like a compact mass of text, but also make sure that it flows naturally. So if I need that to be yellow, I'm just going to highlight these two pieces of text there. And also you have, you know, your PowerPoint or whatever. So if you feel like your background gray thing there is not big enough, you can just click on it and drag it to the right. And, you know, you adjust the background of your thumbnail there. Use the fill tool to move it around. Maybe you want to highlight a different section of your screenshot. Maybe use a slanted version of it. You know, just go crazy with it. And finally, when you're ready creating your title and your background and your text, you're ready to export. Just select everything, File, Export, give it a name, PNG or JPEG, you know, give it a name, test, thumbnail. And in Xara, when you export, it's going to ask you what's the size you want to export. So as we said in the beginning, we want to use HD, which is 1920 pixels by 1080. So we go to the bitmap size and we will put 1920. You click on palette options, go back to bitmap size to force it to calculate. So it's 1920 by 1082. That means somewhere we have maybe gone outside of the area here by a couple of pixels. It really doesn't matter. You know, YouTube, if you upload it to YouTube, they will automatically fit that. So it's not such a big deal if you're 2 pixels off, you know. So once you're done, go to the options, make sure your quality is way up. If you are going to use this thumbnail for your blog, make sure it's properly compressed. At the moment, you know, 1920 by 1082 is at 568 kilobytes. Xara is not exactly popular for compressing images properly, so you may want to use Photoshop to export, to optimize this. Once you've exported it from Xara, you can go into Photoshop and really optimize it. I have a video on my channel about this, how to optimize images in Photoshop to get the best quality, but at the smallest possible file size, so that the images load fast on your website. But when you load it to YouTube as a thumbnail, YouTube does their own compression anyway, so you don't need to worry about that. So when I'm happy with this, I'll just export this, and that's it. Pretty much I've exported the image. I can now upload it to YouTube. There it is. You know, this is my graphic. So as you can see here, I have 2 pixels. I've gone out with 2 pixels here, so I can maybe crop this a bit here, just like that in Extend View. There you are. So my picture is now 1079. Not a problem. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a tutorial on creating thumbnails for your videos or featured images for your blog posts in 3 different difficulty levels and for different color scheme applications. So I hope you've learned something useful on this. Feel free to leave any comments, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any requests for future videos or designs you would like to see how they're done, please don't hesitate to send me a comment or a message, and I will try and do it. Thanks very much for watching.